Autism. It's becoming an increasingly recognized word in our modern age. It's often used as an insult by people who don't actually understand the definition. If you've just reached into your phones to read what the definition actually is, don't bother. That's what this entire dialogue is for. Save yourself the trouble and just wait till the end of the... God, I hate to consider this an essay, but it kinda is. Regardless, let's take a look at autism. A lot of people see autism as something awful, a curse that cripples people and limits their potential. I'd like to respond with Einstein, Mozart, and above all, Aykroyd. Autism isn't as much of a curse as people seem to think it is. Then again, every case of autism is different, and we all tend to have slightly different ideas of what it is. There is literally an entire spectrum of us after all. That's right, there's so much stuff to autism that we get to be up there with light and have our own spectrum. So I'm going to give you the best definition I can give for autism based on my own personal experiences. Sound good? So, let's start with that big question. How do autistic people feel about crowds? That tends to vary a bit. For me, when I get into crowds, I lose most of my mental faculties and practically shut down. That's because I'm overloading with information. The constant barrage of noise and smell, combined with people bumping into me and so many different movements in one place, I can barely hold on to my language faculties. My automatic reaction is, you aren't safe. Get out. The reason for my overload is sort of because of a mixed up and downside of autism. Those of us with autism perceive information differently from normal people. I'm not kidding. The world seems completely different for me. At least, I think it is. Not sure how much of what I see and feel is actually the same as someone without autism. It's all I've ever really known, so... It's difficult for me to describe how I see the world, so I'm just going to describe it as living in the lyrics of a Panic at the Disco song. A lot of things become different from what they actually are. Tissue boxes become volcanoes, firelight becomes thousands of tiny little fireflies, and butterflies become terrifying monsters with erratic patterns. That is also probably the definition of an overactive imagination. Then we have sound. Sound changes everything. It can change how fast I think, move, talk, write. Even my vision is pretty much affected by sound. Different sounds affect me in different ways. Let's go ahead and use the most basic example. Music. Music makes me think either incredibly quickly or unusually deeply. A part of that depends on the speech of the beat, and a part of it depends on the lyrics, assuming I'm listening to a song that has them, of course. When I listen to a fast song without words, I tend to think about fights, and of course I do. It's the epic music at the end of a climactic movie. But I also think about verbal fights. Sometimes they're serious ones, but most of the time they're just casual insults being thrown at each other. But if that same song had lyrics, it would be an entirely different thing. And I'd probably think about combinations of words that flow with the lyrics and the beat of the song. I reckon now you're probably wondering how it felt to grow up with autism. Well, let me say this. It was a mix. I dodged bullies every day, and I had a very close group of good friends. I still do, actually. Except now I'm friends with most of my high school. I don't know. I think there are 28, 29 of us. Anyways, I excelled in every course requiring intellectual knowledge, but struggled with team activities. Am I doing much to dissuade autism stereotypes yet? I never had a problem making up insults, but I never used them because I hated conflict. I also lean heavily on comedy to make myself feel comfortable in situations I'm unfamiliar with. For example, public speaking. I work in a lot of stupid humor that I, and mostly likely I alone, find funny, to calm myself down. Even now, while I'm writing this, I'm working it in to help me avoid the thought of my work being judged by a lot of people. I'm scared of failure, after all. I guess I should probably wrap this up because I don't want to go into any more of a rambling diatribe on how autism is awesome. So let me just wrap this up with a general statement to anyone who's listening. Autism isn't a curse. It's a gift. A wild, chaotic, beautiful gift. Like life. Autistic people can do all sorts of things that normal people can't. Maybe we do need more help in social skills than others, but you know what? The normal people listening probably struggle with something just as much as we do. So what's the definition of autism for real? Human. That's it. We aren't any more or less, no matter what anyone thinks of us. You all expected that answer, of course, but hey, I have no problem falling into the obvious occasionally. After all, I'm only human.